Can we speed this up? My flight to Milan leaves at 3. The words cut through Providence Municipal Court like a blade through silk. Madison Porter, 22 years old, manicured nails drumming on the defense table. Judge Frank Caprio didn't look up. He kept reading. His pen moved steadily across the page. The silence stretched. Madison sighed, loud, theatrical. I heard you, Ms. Porter. Judge Caprio's voice was quiet, steady. The court doesn't accommodate travel plans. It accommodates justice. Madison leaned back in her chair, arms crossed, chin raised. My mother is Congresswoman Victoria Porter. She's on the Judiciary Oversight Committee. Judge Caprio set his pen down, finally looked up. Then she should have taught you better. The courtroom went still. Subscribe to All Rise if you still believe respect belongs in court. Madison's smirk faltered. Just for a second. Then it came back harder. Do you know how much my family has donated to this city? Judge Caprio folded his hands. Wealth funds projects, Ms. Porter. It doesn't fund privilege. Monday, 10:15 a.m. Providence Municipal Court. Case number 2025 MC 11847 called. Defendant present without counsel. The clerk stood. Ms. Angela Reyes. 15 years on the bench. She'd seen everything. Almost everything. Case 2025 MC 11847, she announced. City of Providence versus Madison Porter. Charges: assault on a disabled person, destruction of medical equipment, harassment, disorderly conduct, and failure to appear on prior summons. Madison examined her nails. Judge Caprio watched her. Ms. Porter, do you understand the charges against you? I guess. You guess? I mean, yes, but they're ridiculous. Judge Caprio picked up a file. Thick, detailed. Ridiculous how? Some old guy blocked the sidewalk. I asked him to move. He didn't. I went around him. That's it. That's your version? That's what happened. Judge Caprio nodded slowly. Ms. Reyes, please read the complainant's name. Ms. Reyes adjusted her glasses. Staff Sergeant Michael Torres, United States Marine Corps, retired, Purple Heart recipient. The courtroom shifted. Madison rolled her eyes. So, 5 seconds of silence. 7. 10. So, Judge Caprio repeated. His voice was softer now, dangerously soft. Yeah, so what? Judge Caprio opened a folder, pulled out a photograph. This is what so what looks like. He held up the image, a prosthetic leg, cracked down the middle, lying on concrete. That prosthetic cost $18,000. It took Staff Sergeant Torres 8 months to get approved through the VA. It was custom fitted to his residual limb after he lost his leg to an IED in Fallujah. Madison glanced at the photo. Accidents happen. Accidents. Yeah. Judge Caprio set the photo down carefully. Ms. Porter, do you know what Staff Sergeant Torres was doing when you encountered him? Walking slow. He was walking to the Veterans Affairs Clinic, 3 blocks from where you assaulted him. He was going to physical therapy because his residual limb was causing him pain. Again. Madison shrugged. I didn't know that. Would it have mattered? No answer. Privilege is a mirror, Ms. Porter. It shows you what you avoid. Officer Paul Denton stood at attention. 23 years on the force. Traffic and Patrol Division. Officer Denton, Judge Caprio said. Your report, please. Officer Denton opened his notebook. On November 18th at approximately 9:47 a.m., I responded to a disturbance call at the corner of Hope Street and Angel. The complainant, Staff Sergeant Michael Torres reported being verbally harassed and physically assaulted by a young woman on an electric scooter. Madison examined her phone. "Eyes up, Ms. Porter," Judge Caprio said. She looked up. Barely. Officer Denton continued. Staff Sergeant Torres was using the sidewalk, moving at a careful pace due to his prosthetic leg. The defendant approached from behind at high speed and shouted. He paused. His jaw tightened. She shouted, "Move faster, cripple. Some of us have places to be." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Madison's face went red. "That's not what I said." "We have 3 witnesses, Ms. Porter," Officer Denton said, "and my body camera." Silence. When Staff Sergeant Torres explained he couldn't move faster, Officer Denton continued, the defendant reportedly said, another pause. She said, "Then maybe you should crawl. You'd be faster on the ground." The courtroom exploded. Whispers, gasps. One woman stood up. Judge Caprio raised his hand. Silence returned immediately. The defendant then swerved her scooter directly into Staff Sergeant Torres, Officer Denton said. He fell. His prosthetic leg detached. It struck the pavement and cracked. He sustained bruising to his shoulder, hip, and residual limb. The impact reopened an old surgical wound. Madison leaned forward. He was blocking the entire sidewalk. Judge Caprio closed his eyes briefly. "Ms. Porter, did you tell a decorated war hero to crawl?" "I was late." "Did you tell him to crawl?" "I don't remember exactly what I said." "Officer Denton, do you have the body camera footage?" "Yes, Your Honor." Body cam transcript, November 18th, 9:48 a.m. Officer Denton. "Ma'am, what's your name?" "Madison Porter." "Madison Porter. And before you start, my mother is Congresswoman Victoria Porter." Officer Denton. "That doesn't give you the right to assault someone." Madison Porter. "I didn't assault anyone. He fell." Officer Denton. "Witnesses say you deliberately hit him with your scooter." Madison Porter. "Witnesses are wrong. He was in my way." Officer Denton. "He's a disabled veteran, ma'am." 3-second pause. Madison Porter. "Good for him. Can I go now?" Officer Denton. "No. You're being cited." Madison Porter. "My mother will have your badge." Officer Denton. "That's between you and your mother." Madison Porter. "You have no idea who you're messing with." Judge Caprio set the transcript down. "Ms. Porter, you keep invoking your mother's name like it's a shield." "Because it is." "Is it?" "Yeah. My mom knows people. Important people. She can make problems disappear." Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly. "Ms. Porter, I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to think carefully before you answer." Madison waited. "Do you know what your mother has been doing the last 4 months?" The question landed wrong. Madison frowned. "Working. Bills. Congressional stuff." "Congressional stuff," Judge Caprio repeated. "Yeah. Why?" Judge Caprio didn't answer. "We'll come back to that." "Safety isn't a suggestion, Ms. Porter. It's infrastructure." The side door opened quietly. No announcement. No fanfare. Staff Sergeant Michael Torres walked in slowly, carefully, using a cane and a temporary prosthetic. He was 58 years old. Gray hair, weathered face, eyes that had seen too much. He wore a simple polo shirt. No uniform, no medals. He didn't need them. He walked to the front row and sat down, leaned his cane against the bench. Madison was still looking at her phone. Everyone else saw him. The courtroom changed. People sat straighter. Whispers stopped. Judge Caprio nodded once, a small gesture of respect. Staff Sergeant Torres nodded back. Madison finally looked up. She saw him. saw the cane, saw the prosthetic. Her face went pale. "Who's that?" she whispered to no one. Nobody answered. Ms. Reyes stepped forward with another document. "Your Honor, we also have a statement from Martha Gibbons, witness. She was waiting at the bus stop when the incident occurred." "Please read it," Judge Caprio said. Ms. Reyes cleared her throat. "I saw the whole thing. The young woman was going way too fast on her scooter. The veteran was walking slow, but he was on the right side of the sidewalk. There was plenty of room to pass. She didn't even try. She aimed right at him. After he fell, she laughed. She actually laughed. Then she said something I won't repeat. It was the cruelest thing I've ever seen." Madison leaned back, arms crossed. "That lady's lying." Judge Caprio looked at her for a long moment. "Why would she lie?" "I don't know. Maybe she wants money." "Ms. Gibbons is 73 years old. She's a retired school teacher. She has no connection to Staff Sergeant Torres. She simply witnessed an assault." "It wasn't an assault." "Then what was it?" "An accident." "You accidentally laughed at a man's injuries?" Madison said nothing. "Every crosswalk is a promise. Break it and someone pays." Judge Caprio picked up another document. "I also have something interesting here. 2 certified summons, both sent to your registered address, both confirmed delivered. You failed to appear on both dates." Madison shifted uncomfortably. "I forgot." "You forgot twice?" "I've been busy." "Busy with what?" "Life. Travel. Things." Judge Caprio nodded slowly. "Let me read you something else. This is from 10 months ago. A parking citation, issued after you blocked a handicapped parking space for 4 hours while you had brunch." Madison's jaw tightened. "I paid that. After 6 reminders and a late fee." "The note from the officer says," he read from the file, "Defendant stated, 'Do you know who my mother is? She'll have this erased by tomorrow.'" "That's public record, Ms. Porter. It's all public record." Silence. "You've been using your mother's name as a weapon," Judge Caprio said quietly. "As an excuse, as a shield. For how long?" "That's not—" "How long, Ms. Porter?" Madison looked away. "I don't know." "Let me ask you again. Do you know what your mother has been doing the last 4 months?" "I told you. Working." "On what?" "I don't know. She doesn't tell me everything." Judge Caprio nodded. "No, she doesn't." The side door opened again. This time everyone turned. Congresswoman Victoria Porter walked into the courtroom. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Her suit was wrinkled, her face was drawn. She walked to the front slowly, like she was carrying the weight of the world. "Your Honor," she said quietly, "may I speak?" Madison's face went white. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Victoria didn't look at her. She kept her eyes on Judge Caprio. He nodded once. "Please." Victoria Porter stood at the bar, gripped it with both hands. Her voice shook when she spoke. "My daughter thinks I'm powerful. She thinks I can fix anything, make problems disappear, protect her from consequences." She paused, took a breath. "She doesn't know that I've spent the last 4 months leading a congressional investigation into veteran health care failures. She doesn't know that I've been fighting to increase VA funding. She doesn't know that I've held 17 hearings on prosthetic equipment delays." Madison stared at her mother, mouth open. "She doesn't know that every Saturday morning I volunteer at the Providence Veterans Rehabilitation Center, that I help veterans navigate the VA system, that I sit with them when they're frustrated and scared and feel abandoned by the country they served." Victoria's voice cracked. "She thinks power is about making phone calls, pulling strings, using influence to avoid accountability." She finally looked at Madison, tears streaming down her face. I failed you, Madison. I let you believe that our family name was a free pass. That respect was something you could demand instead of earn. That other people's pain didn't matter if it inconvenienced you. Madison's shoulders shook. Mom, you mocked a man who gave his leg for this country. You laughed at his injuries. You destroyed equipment he needed to walk. Victoria wiped her eyes. And you did it because I never taught you that power is a responsibility, not a right. She turned back to Judge Caprio. Whatever sentence you give her, she's earned it. And I'll be there every step of the way to make sure she completes it. Subscribe to All Rise if you believe justice should be earned, not bought. Judge Caprio let the silence sit. Finally, he spoke. Congresswoman Porter, your daughter keeps saying you can make this go away, that you know people, that you have power. Victoria nodded, crying openly now. Can you? No, Victoria whispered. I can't. And I wouldn't if I could. Judge Caprio opened another folder. I want to read something. This is from the director of the Providence Veterans Rehabilitation Center. He pulled out a letter. Congresswoman Porter has been one of our most dedicated volunteers. She arrives every Saturday at 6 a.m. She stays until noon. She doesn't wear her title. She doesn't seek publicity. She just shows up. Veterans ask for her by name. She's helped dozens navigate the VA system. She's written letters, made calls, fought battles. She's made a real difference in real lives. Madison's face crumpled. Your mother isn't powerful in the way you think, Madison, Judge Caprio said. She's powerful because she serves, because she shows up, because she understands that privilege is a responsibility to help others, not a license to harm them. He looked at Victoria. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your service to our veterans. Victoria nodded, unable to speak. Judge Caprio turned to Madison. Ms. Porter, look at Staff Sergeant Torres. Madison turned slowly. Staff Sergeant Torres was watching her. Not with anger, not with hatred, with something she couldn't quite name. Disappointment, maybe, or pity. Staff Sergeant Torres lost his leg in combat, Judge Caprio said. He was a medic. He was pulling wounded Marines from a destroyed vehicle when the IED detonated. He saved 4 lives. He gave his leg so they could keep theirs. Madison's tears came fast now. He spent 2 years learning to walk again. 2 years of pain, surgeries, setbacks, victories. He never complained. He never asked for special treatment. He just worked. Judge Caprio paused. And you told him to crawl. I'm sorry, Madison whispered. Sorry isn't enough, Judge Caprio said. Sorry is just words. You need to show it. You need to understand the weight of what you've done. He opened the file in front of him. Here is my ruling. Authority is not for sale. It is for service. Madison Porter, you are 22 years old. You have your entire life ahead of you. But that life will be defined by the choices you make right now. Today. In this courtroom. Madison wiped her face. You assaulted a disabled veteran. You mocked his sacrifice. You destroyed equipment he needed to function. That is not a mistake. That is a moral failure. He paused. But I'm going to give you a chance to learn from it. Madison looked up, hopeful and terrified. You will complete 200 hours of community service, 100 hours at the Providence Veterans Rehabilitation Center, 100 hours at the VA hospital assisting with physical therapy sessions. Okay, Madison said quickly. I will. You will write 2 handwritten letters of apology, 1 to Staff Sergeant Torres, 1 to every veteran whose service you dismissed with your words. Both letters will be at least 2 pages. Both must be sincere. Yes, Your Honor. You will pay full restitution to Staff Sergeant Torres for his damaged prosthetic. $18,000. Your mother will not pay this. You will, through work, through saving, through sacrifice. Madison swallowed hard. I understand. You will create and fund a scholarship for disabled veterans pursuing vocational training. Minimum $25,000. Again, your money, not your mother's. Yes, sir. You will produce 2 public service announcements about respecting disabled veterans and the consequences of entitlement. These will air on local media. Your face, your name, your words. Madison nodded. And finally, Judge Caprio said, you will write a 2,000-word reflection essay on what you learned. You will read it aloud in this courtroom in 8 months, in front of Staff Sergeant Torres, in front of your mother, in front of everyone. Sentencing Summary, November 25th, 2025. 200 hours community service, 100 hours Providence Veterans Rehabilitation Center, 100 hours VA Hospital, 2 handwritten apology letters, minimum 2 pages each, $18,000 restitution for prosthetic equipment, $25,000 scholarship fund for disabled veterans, 2 public service announcements, 2,000-word reflection essay, public reading required, follow-up hearing, July 25th, 2026. Judge Caprio leaned forward. Madison, I'm not punishing you. I'm teaching you. I'm giving you a chance to become someone your mother can be proud of. Someone you can be proud of. He looked at Victoria. Congresswoman, your daughter needs you. Not your power, not your connections. You. The woman who shows up at 6 a.m. every Saturday to serve veterans. That's the mother she needs to see. Victoria nodded, tears streaming. Judge Caprio turned to Staff Sergeant Torres. Sergeant, do you have anything you'd like to say? Staff Sergeant Torres stood slowly, leaned on his cane. He looked at Madison for a long moment. Then he spoke. His voice was quiet but strong. I don't want you to feel guilty forever. I want you to do better. That's all. Just do better. Madison sobbed. I will, sir. I promise. I'm so sorry. Staff Sergeant Torres nodded. Then he sat back down. Judge Caprio closed the file. We're done here for now. Court is adjourned. Mercy isn't a discount. It's a lesson priced in time. The first Saturday at the Veterans Rehabilitation Center arrived cold and gray. Victoria drove Madison. Neither spoke much. The silence wasn't angry. It was the tentative quiet of 2 people learning to be honest with each other. Inside, the center smelled like coffee and antiseptic. A woman with kind eyes met them at the door. You must be Madison. I'm Susan. I coordinate the volunteers. Hi, Madison said quietly. Thank you for letting me help. Susan smiled. Your mother speaks highly of this place. Madison glanced at Victoria. Her mom gave a small, sad smile. Follow me, Susan said. She led Madison to a therapy room. 12 veterans working through exercises, some in wheelchairs, some with prosthetics, some with visible scars. In the corner, working with resistance bands, was Staff Sergeant Torres. Madison's stomach dropped. Sergeant, Susan said gently, your new assistant is here. Staff Sergeant Torres looked up. His expression was unreadable. Hello, sir, Madison said. Her voice shook. I'm here to help, however you need me. Staff Sergeant Torres studied her. Then he held out a resistance band. Start by handing me the blue one. Then you can tell me why you're really here. Madison took a breath. I'm here because I hurt you. And I was wrong. And I want to do better. Staff Sergeant Torres nodded. Good. That's a start. Case follow-up log. March 15th, 2026. Madison Porter has completed 142 of 200 required service hours. Staff reports excellent attitude and genuine engagement. Staff Sergeant Torres has requested Madison continue assisting with his sessions. Both apology letters delivered and accepted. First, PSA recorded and aired. Restitution payment plan established, $750 per month from part-time employment. Over the next 7 months, Madison learned what service meant. She learned the names of men and women who'd fought in Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Korea. She learned about sacrifice, about pain, about resilience. She learned that Staff Sergeant Torres had been awarded the Navy Cross, that he'd gone back into the burning vehicle twice, that he'd saved lives while his own leg was mangled. "Why did you do it?" Madison asked one morning during exercises. Staff Sergeant Torres paused. "Because they were my Marines, and you don't leave your Marines behind." Madison was quiet. "I don't think I've ever cared about anyone that much." "You will," Staff Sergeant Torres said. "When you stop thinking about what people can do for you and start thinking about what you can do for them." Madison nodded. She was beginning to understand. Victoria kept volunteering too. They worked side by side most Saturdays. They talked more about the investigation, about veterans, about privilege and responsibility. "I thought power was about control," Victoria said one morning as they organized supplies. "And now?" Madison asked. "Now I think power is about service, showing up, being present, using what you have to help others." Madison looked at her mother, really looked at her. Not a congresswoman, not a political figure, just a woman trying to do better. "I'm proud of you, Mom," Madison said quietly. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I'm proud of you too, sweetheart. Should every assault case include restorative justice? Tell us in the comments." July 25th arrived sunny and warm. The courtroom was packed. Susan came. Staff Sergeant Torres came, walking confidently with his repaired prosthetic. A dozen veterans from the center filled the back rows. Quiet and dignified. Judge Caprio entered. Everyone stood. "Please sit," he said. He looked at Madison. She looked different, older, not in years, in bearing. She stood straight, made eye contact, didn't look away. "Madison Porter," Judge Caprio said, "you've completed your service hours, you've delivered your apologies, you've paid your restitution, you've established your scholarship, you've created your PSAs. Now I'd like to hear your essay." Madison nodded. She pulled out 8 handwritten pages, walked to the podium, took a breath. "8 months ago," she began, voice steady, "I stood in this courtroom and told my mother to use her power to make this go away. I thought power meant never facing consequences, never being held accountable, never having to change." She paused. "I was wrong about everything." For the next 15 minutes, Madison read. She talked about what she'd learned, about Staff Sergeant Torres's courage, about her mother's quiet service, about the difference between privilege and responsibility. She talked about holding the hand of a veteran during a panic attack, about learning the names of children who'd lost parents in war, about understanding that freedom isn't free and respect must be earned. When she finished, the courtroom was silent. Then Staff Sergeant Torres started clapping. Slowly, the other veterans joined, then everyone else. Madison's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. Judge Caprio smiled. "Well done, Ms. Porter. This case is officially closed." Madison walked over to Staff Sergeant Torres. She extended her hand. "Thank you, sir, for teaching me, for giving me a chance." Staff Sergeant Torres shook her hand firmly. "You earned it. Keep going." Victoria approached Judge Caprio. "Thank you, Your Honor, for seeing her, for seeing us." Judge Caprio nodded. "Take care of each other. And keep showing up on Saturdays." Victoria smiled. "We will." Outside, the sun was bright and warm. Madison and Victoria walked together toward the parking lot. Behind them, Staff Sergeant Torres and the other veterans followed, talking quietly among themselves. "Mom," Madison said. "Yeah?" "I want to keep volunteering, even though I'm done with my sentence." Victoria stopped walking. She looked at her daughter, and for the first time in months, she smiled without sadness behind it. "I'd like that. We'll do it together." They kept walking, side by side. And in the courtroom behind them, Judge Frank Caprio watched them go. He thought about mothers and daughters, about power and service, about the moments that break us and the choices that remake us. He thought about justice, real justice, the kind that doesn't just punish, the kind that transforms. Subscribe to All Rise if you believe respect is earned, not inherited. 6 months later, Madison Porter graduated from the volunteer program. She didn't leave. She became a paid advocate, helping veterans navigate the VA system, using her privilege to open doors instead of hide behind them. Staff Sergeant Torres became her mentor. They met weekly, sometimes at the center, sometimes for coffee. He taught her about leadership, about sacrifice, about what it means to serve something bigger than yourself. Victoria's Veterans Health Care Reform Bill passed the House, then the Senate. The President signed it into law. Funding increased. Wait times decreased. Prosthetic approvals accelerated. Real change. Measurable impact. At the signing ceremony, Victoria brought Madison and Staff Sergeant Torres. They stood together, 3 people who'd been brought together by pain and transformed by grace. The media asked Victoria about the case, about her daughter. She smiled. "My daughter taught me that power without humility is just noise, and that the best way to honor those who serve is to serve alongside them." Madison stood beside her mother, not behind her, equal, present, purposeful. Staff Sergeant Torres watched them both, and for the first time in years, he felt hope. Not just for himself, for the country he'd fought for the next generation learning what service really means. Judge Caprio received a letter 3 months later. It was from Madison. "Dear Judge Caprio, 8 months ago, you gave me a choice, punishment or transformation. You chose transformation for me when I would have chosen escape. I want you to know that I think about that day every single day. I think about Staff Sergeant Torres, about my mother, about the veterans I've met. I think about the person I was and the person I'm becoming. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying. Thank you for believing I could be better. Thank you for making me prove it. With gratitude, Madison Porter." Judge Caprio folded the letter carefully. He placed it in a file he kept. Letters from people who'd stood in his courtroom and found themselves changed. He thought about Madison, about her journey, about the difference between punishment and justice. Punishment ends when the sentence is served. Justice continues when the lesson is learned. And Madison had learned. Not just about veterans, not just about respect, about herself, about what she was capable of when she stopped hiding behind privilege and started stepping into purpose. That was the verdict that mattered. Not the one he'd delivered in court, the one she'd delivered to herself. Power without discipline is danger, but power with purpose is change. The Providence Veterans Rehabilitation Center expanded. New funding, new programs, new hope. Madison's scholarship grew, from $25,000 to $100,000, then $250,000. She fundraised. She called donors. She used her mother's connections, not to avoid consequences, to create opportunities. 12 disabled veterans received vocational training. 8 found employment. 4 started businesses. 1 became a peer counselor at the VA. His name was James. He'd lost both legs in Afghanistan. He told Madison during a training session, "You gave me more than money. You gave me a reason to believe people can change." Madison cried. Not tears of guilt, tears of gratitude. For the chance to be better. For the people who'd believed she could. For the journey from privilege to purpose. Staff Sergeant Torres attended every scholarship ceremony. He shook hands with every recipient. He told them the same thing. "Someone invested in me once. Now I invest in you. And someday you'll invest in someone else." The ripple effect of justice. One sentence, one transformation, one life changed, multiplied across time. That's what Judge Caprio understood. That's what he'd always understood. Justice isn't about revenge. It's about restoration, about giving people the tools to rebuild themselves, about believing that who someone is today doesn't have to be who they are tomorrow. Victoria Porter was re-elected by the widest margin in her district's history. Her veteran advocacy became legendary, but she never forgot the day she stood in Judge Caprio's courtroom, broken, ashamed, terrified, and found grace. Not the grace of escape, the grace of accountability, the grace that says, "You failed, now fix it." She kept volunteering. Every Saturday, 6 a.m. to noon, Madison beside her, mother and daughter, side by side, serving together, learning together, growing together. Judge Caprio retired 5 years later. His farewell speech was simple. "I've sentenced thousands of people in this courtroom, but I never sentenced anyone to failure. I sentenced them to possibility. Some took it, some didn't, but I always offered it. Because that's what justice demands, not perfection, not revenge. Hope." Madison attended the retirement ceremony. She brought Staff Sergeant Torres. They sat in the front row. When Judge Caprio finished speaking, they stood. Then everyone stood. A standing ovation that lasted 5 minutes. For a man who'd spent his career believing in people, even when they didn't believe in themselves, especially then. He came in with a last name and left with a lesson. Dramatization for storytelling and education, not legal advice or reporting.